For the year 2023, Nigerian sportswomen have made the country more proud than their male counterparts. One of them is Dolapo Phillips, a licensed Shotokan karate instructor, referee and judge who won 2 bronze medals at the World Shotokan Karate Federation World Championship held in Tokyo, Japan last month. Now joining us is Dolapo Phillips, daughter of late Raymond Dokwesi and Shotokan champion. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
Mrs. Phillips, congratulations on your achievement.
Thank you very much.
But I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
I used to learn karate when I was an NYSC person during national service. There was this guy from UNN who was teaching us karate. In the morning, we'll run like 25 miles, then we'll come back, we'll be hitting the wall. Mawate, mawate. And he used to teach us the points to hit in the human body. So some of us were looking forward to going to fight. I used to tell him, I want to beat people up. But he was always telling us, no, it's not for you to be violent. That's not what karate is all about. So do you sometimes feel like some people offend you and you should just beat them up?
No, I don't actually.
Really?
Because I feel if I do, if they die, what then happens? You have to exercise self-control. And then karate do, which is the way of life of karate, makes you understand that it's not about being offensive, it's about diffusing situations. Only, until your life is at stake, then you now have to do certain things to get yourself out of the situation. That's when you can get a little bit violent. But before
Mr.
then,
Phillips is a very gentleman, right? He's a gentleman.
He is.
You won't have to practice.
No. Luckily, he did karate and judo when he was much younger, so I myself too have to check myself now and
Okay,
again.
because they teach how to defend. How
Of
to
course,
block.
yes,
Yeah, I know. I still remember a little of it.
All right, so tell us about the background into the world of Shotokan. I realized at some point in your education you'd gone to study Japanese. Was that what piqued your interest in Shotokan, or was it something, what was it? Because you're an engineer as well.
Yes, I
And you
am.
moved on now into the arts. So what piqued your interest
I
in
started karate in secondary school. So I started at 13. So my love for Japan and Japanese hadn't even formed then. I started karate in secondary school, Nigerian Navy. We used to compete for our school then. I really felt like a ninja back then. Then shortly moved to the UK. I continued. But then I kind of took a long hiatus when I was in university because my course was really, really intense. Then after, I moved to Japan for about 2 years, and I continued in Japan as well. And then took a long break when I moved back to Nigeria. So I've had the love for karate for very long because it's very physical. It's also very mental because it's almost like a chess game every time you're engaging people. So it keeps you it keeps your body nicely conditioned and keeps your mind very supple as well. So after my second child, I said, okay, you know what, I'm going back to karate full time. That was 2015. And then that's how all of this kind of started again.
So let's talk about, education as regards karate styles. We don't have a lot of it in Nigeria. And I want to link that to that point Dr. Bass was making, about Mr. Phillips and all of that. A lot of women do go through some form of physical abuse in their marriages.
Yes.
Or even from external people, self-defense is key, rape and things like that. Is there a possibility, do we have enough outlets where we can at least teach them for the sake of self-defense, not to be able to start the trouble? That's number one. And two, also teach them as a way of life to be able to fight against diseases like obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure. That's already a scourge in Nigeria as we speak today. In fact, there were some staggering stats that came out as regards people that they've gone through amputations, that majority of the number of amputations are happening in Nigeria. It's because of diabetes.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, from those two angles.
I mean, there isn't enough education. There isn't enough generally, but there's also a lot that's out there that people should probably pay more attention to. It's more people absorbing the information and imbibing the culture. I own a gym as well. I'm a fitness coach. So this is part of my life, educating people on health, wellness, how to avoid such diseases that are avoidable actually by eating properly and having a very active lifestyle. So there is a lot of information out there, but I guess it doesn't stop. We have to keep pushing more. And if we have more bodies working with people like us to push self-defense, for example, in schools and in organizations, it will probably create more of an awareness because everybody knows that there's domestic violence everywhere. It doesn't even only happen at home, but we need to be more proactive in making such classes or such seminars available to people so that we can engage. In this year, we've had quite a lot of schools approach us at our dojo to teach self-defense. We approached...
Where's your dojo at?
In Lekki Phase 1, Alpha Fitness Studios. In Lekki Phase 1. We've approached, I think it was, I think some judges approached us a few years ago, and we were very happy about it. And we said, look, we're going to give free self-defense classes for 2 months. I tell you...
For judges?
Well, the judges were the ones that approached us.
Nigerian courtroom judges?
Yes, approached us. And we opened up our dojo. Exactly. And we opened up our dojo for free fitness classes, self-defense classes. I tell you, in 2 months, not one woman turned up.
Wow.
Not one. And it was free. And they advertised it, we advertised it, but nothing happened.
But let me ask you, what can government do? I mean, you have won medals now at the international level, so it's a sports category. What can government do at various levels to develop, interest, people's interest in this area of engagement?
I mean, it's on different levels. The fitness and health level aspect is there.
Yeah.
On that front, it's also promoting living a healthy lifestyle. And the good thing about karate is that you can do it up until you are 100 years old. In Japan, we visited, we visited a few dojos where the oldest person was 96 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, another dojo we visited, a lady came in at 81 to have her very first karate class. So it doesn't, there's no age limit with karate. So that's a very good way of life for people that want to do this sport or have this way of life up until, the end of their days. And then also from the self-defense point of view as well, it's very important for the government to introduce karate in schools and make it almost compulsory as part of one of the different, because in schools they focus a lot on football and maybe volleyball. During my time, there was a lot of sports in school, but now all we hear is football and swimming. But if a kind of martial arts is involved in primary and secondary school as mandatory sports, I think that would go a long way.
That's excellent. Now, when you talk about martial arts, I think perhaps the reluctance of people to embrace it, like you talked about the women who refused to come, even though it was free, is that they think it's violent. I don't know, that's not for me. I want something a bit softer, like you mentioned, swimming. What would you say about that? Is it a violent sport? You talk about it being self-defense. When I hear karate, I just think, even Rufai has said, giving you
you had his guard up already.
So can you challenge that myth around it being violent, about fighting, you learn to be violent, you do it?
It's actually the opposite. And you would not know that until you start the sport. Doctor, if he persisted slightly longer, he would have noticed. He just wanted to beat people up. He would have noticed. Because like the very first rule in the dojo kun is exert yourself in the perfection of character. We recite these dojo kuns, there are 5, in every single class to remind you of what Karate Do is about, the way of life of karate. It's not about causing trouble. You learn all of this so you can diffuse situations. And the more you practice, the more you come to realize that that is the case. So if women come in to practice karate, they get stronger, they get fitter. It affects you mentally as well, and you start to realize that, okay, I'm not the one that's supposed to look for trouble because, one, I have to exert myself in the perfection of character. Exerting yourself in the perfection of character doesn't mean you go and pick fights. But they should not fight you. That's just the main thing.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Dolapo Phillips, for joining us on the morning show. Mrs. Dolapo Phillips, Shotokan karate instructor and champion.